All right, ladies and gentlemen, today's topic of examination is mega ripples in the channeled scablands of central Washington. So if you live in Spokane, these mega ripples are just down the hill from you. And I just want to show you guys where all the locations are in case you want to go check out some mega ripples on the weekend. That's always a good weekend thing to do, is check out mega ripples. So where should we begin? Let's start up top. So a lot of these ripples are about 150 to 240 feet in wavelength. This one's on the smaller side, but you can see quite clearly that these are mega ripples. And then you've got a ton of scours right here. Those were all dug out by water turbulence. If we go down the hill, now we see lobes of sediment that was carried and transported by this current. And on top of them, we've got all of these mega ripples. This is a good one here. We can measure this guy. And so the amplitude of these, the height, based upon Google Earth, which might not be too accurate, it's a little iffy, but the amplitude of these guys is anywhere from 3 to 10 feet. That one looks like a more shallow field, but we'll find some that have larger amplitudes, and we're just going to go around and check them out. So here you can see the channel banks, and then on top you've got some nice ripples. These ones look pretty thick. And one of the most famous mega ripples is this sandbar here, which is right next to Dry Falls. And these guys, let's find the biggest one. This one might be the biggest. .300. Some of these are like 330. But this section has 300-foot ripples. And we can go up to where the Omak Plateau flowed down into Moses Coulee. You can see some ripples in here. Right on the edge of this channel, next to Dry Falls. You got Dry Falls right here. This is a great location because you've got that cliff bank on one side, another cliff bank on the other, and in the center you have the ripples. Not on either side, but only in the channel are these mega ripples. These are nice ones. .260, not bad. And I like this pointed intermediary in the middle. Bank edge there, bank edge here. Ooh, that's got to be a mega channel. Let's check that out. 3, that's probably like 70% of a mile. And then you've got mounds all over the top. We're going to find a lot of mounds in the channeled scablands. This is a cool deposit. You can see the deposit here, somewhat lobe-shaped at the end. And in the valley of it, got some nice mega ripples. Ooh, 340. And then you can see at the center of this, you got two channels from the channeled scablands. And at the center, you've got a ton of scours in here. All this land was just ripped up by floodwaters. Lots of potholes, scours, scoured river channels. And then as you move over, nice field of mega ripples. These look a little smaller. And you can see how the wavelength decreases down this way. And if you look over here, you can even see a smaller wavelength. You can see somewhat of a horizontal pattern before they kind of get disorganized into mounds. We'll see a lot of that. Here's some more. We go up to here. What do you know? They've got ripples. Those are some nice clean ones. This one looks pretty tall. Let's see what the altitude's saying. 484 meters, and at the trough, 483. So it's only saying a meter, 3 feet, which I doubt. I bet it's more than that. The elevation on Google Earth isn't that fine-tuned, but you can see more ripples in here. Got the channel, and then I really like this one because you've got a rounded lobe deposit. Imagine that being transported along, and that's where it stopped. Another lobe deposit. On top of this guy, you've got some really classic ripples. And on top of the ripples are mounds. Wavelength check 250, not bad. Those ones are nice. I'd visit those ones. Those are visitable. Here you've got some on the side of the channel. Some more over here. This is a cool one because you've got the bank edge really clean. And then you've got ripples just right on that, just tucked in right next to that bank. Reminds me of Chad, the place in Africa. Let's go. So yeah, all the darker spots are where the channel is really scoured out. Took away all the topsoil and left it as a scabland. And in the center of them is when you find them really scoured out. And they got a ton of mounds and they got a ton of cataracts. When a channel begins abruptly and rounded, you know there was a lot of water flow. But just look at these mounds. These mounds are very prominent on this landscape. And I think they're a quite beautiful feature. They really decorate it. But my favorite thing about mounds is that they're a geologic mystery when their explanation is very obvious. And I'll explain that later in the video. But one thing I think I wanted to go back here. Oh yeah, so this feature right here is cool because you can see how it's streamlined. It's rounded like a drumlin. It's rounded like a river sandbar. Really clean tail on this guy. A nice rounded front. But when we zoom out, we notice that this is the same feature, just larger. Channel on either side wrapping around it. And that's something we find with the channeled scablands. Even something like this is the same feature. This is another one. It's got quite a clean cliff on it. And so we find a ton of that in the channeled scablands. something like this. This guy's got a nice tail to it. And then tons of mounds and scours and channels and potholes. Go over to a spot like this. We've got the bank edge right here. And we've got ripples right down the middle. And so let's just keep cruising around. Okay, now here we go. Now we're going to understand mounds. So we've got ripples here, right? We can see the linear horizontal ripples. And then they kind of just diverge. They transition into mounds. So what happens is, if you got ripples here, if water flow is cutting in between the ripples, that's how you get this mound. So it was a part of this ripple formation, and then water came through here, and it came through here, washed down through here, and then a ripple is basically just an what's left. So they can start off as mounds, or they can start off as ripples, they can start off as drumlins, or they can just be the topsoil of the landscape. But when water washes them away, all you get that's left is the mounds. So it's a feature of a floodplain, extremely common in the channeled scablands. So we got Spokane up here, city of Spokane, Washington. The floodwaters came down through here, made a nice pointed streamlined area here. And let's find some mega ripples. This is a good one because you can see the channel, you can see the sand deposit, you can see the berm, the accretion ridge, the river ridge, somewhat of a lobe deposit. But when we check out we start looking for some mega ripples, we find them next to the mounds, of course. And what's cool about this one is that these ripples are at an angle. So what happens is there's resistance along the bank, and that tilts the ripples away from it. So if you watch a river, you'll see that. And then this area has some really good scours. Really nicely scoured up right next to a huge channel. Right next to huge mounds. Let's see about this guy here. All right, now let's go over to this guy here. What river is that? The Snake? And if we go by the Snake, oh boy. This is one of my favorite landscapes here. These are accretion ridges from the river current. So the river was this high. These are shoreline berms, just like Lake Missoula has the same shoreline berms. This was a huge river all the way up to each of these shorelines. And then you've got really nice mounds dripping down the hillside. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, you can find them all over the place along the Snake. All right, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.